Space Gun by Taito hit the arcades in 1990. Like many of the light gun games of the time, it uses 2D sprite scaling effects to give the illusion of a 3D world. For the most part, this works quite well, although there are times when you can clearly see that Taito's sprite scaling technology was far behind that of Sega's. That's not to say this game isn't a looker though, as you travel through the corridors fighting off hordes of enemies and bosses while rescuing the human prisoners. For a Spectrum, this isn't all that bad. Yet everything has a big stupid black block around it, and at times the aliens look like nothing more than a mash of coloured blocks thrown at the screen. But at least the enemies are big, and the developers have tried to replicate the arcade game. I'm actually kind of surprised at how well this port of Space Gun has turned out. While it doesn't look too hot, it still captures the arcade feel, mostly thanks to the cool soundtrack, which is surprisingly atmospheric for the Commodore 64. Sadly, the only console port ended up on the Master System, and while it does have the best light gun ever released before the Saturn, it still can't be saved. The main problem with the Master System version of Space Gun is that it's just too boring, and not much of a challenge for the first few stages. The alien enemies hardly attack you unlike they do in all the other ports, and there's less of them. Then there's the use of the special attacks. I found it much easier not having to bother with them. The main gun is powerful enough, plus it doesn't empty as fast as the other ports. This version can be played with the control pad or the light gun, which is why you're seeing the screen flash every time I fire. The Atari ST port starts off really well, running at a good speed. Then a few enemies appear on screen and everything grinds to a halt. Seriously, just look at how slow this is running. The game is poorly optimized, meaning you'll never be playing at a constant speed. Sometimes it's too fast, others it's too slow. Very rarely does it run at the correct speed. Another downer is the music. It's rather poor, which is why I opted for the sound effects. At least they're pretty good. Many a time game developers love to make crappy original tunes for Amiga games, but I'm happy to say that Images Software have done an excellent job with the soundtrack on this Amiga port of Space Gun. Not only is the soundtrack good, but so is the game. Yeah, it does slow down like the ST port, but nowhere near as bad, plus it's a lot more stable too. In fact, the only real downside are the long loading times. Still, at least you're entertained during those, since the music never stops playing. And let's take a look at all those versions of Space Gun running side by side.